You people spend your entire lives chewing on bitter green leaves and running on treadmills to live forever, only to get taken out by a raw kidney bean. The biological irony is absolutely delicious.
You survived the dangerous diet pill crazes of the 80s and the completely misguided fat-free obsession of the 90s. Now, you proudly stroll through the organic aisles, believing you finally mastered healthy living. But nature has a dark sense of humor. Behind the earthy packaging and glowing health claims, your favorite natural superfoods are secretly hiding heavy metals, aggressive neurotoxins, and lethal bacteria. Today, we are exposing the 30 most deceptively dangerous foods you consume every single day. Grab your grocery list, because your healthy diet is actively trying to kill you. Fact 1. Grapefruit. You probably start your morning with a refreshing glass of grapefruit juice, thinking you are doing your body a massive favor. Well, if you are taking prescription medications, that healthy breakfast might just be a colorful death sentence. Grapefruit contains sneaky chemical compounds called furanocoumarins. These actively shut down a crucial enzyme in your intestines called CYP3A4. If you are taking statins for cholesterol or calcium channel blockers for blood pressure, your body suddenly forgets how to break those drugs down. Instead of a safe daily dose, the medication rapidly builds up in your bloodstream to highly toxic levels, potentially throwing you straight into total kidney failure. Your healthy habit is basically an accidental overdose. Fact 2. Black licorice. Let's talk about that old-school candy you probably have sitting in your pantry right now. Real black licorice isn't just a weird treat your grandfather loved. It contains a genuinely dangerous compound called glycyrrhizin. If you are over 40 years old and eating just 2 ounces, about 50 grams, of this stuff a day, you are playing Russian roulette with your heart. This chemical violently flushes the potassium right out of your body. Potassium is what keeps your heart beating in a steady rhythm. Once those levels drop, you are on a fast track to severe cardiac arrhythmia and a massive hypertensive crisis. The FDA issues official warnings about this candy, but people keep treating it like a harmless movie snack instead of a cardiac disruptor. Fact 3. Starfruit. This exotic, beautiful tropical fruit looks fantastic on a summer salad or a fancy cocktail, but it hides a deeply malicious secret. Starfruit contains a very specific, potent neurotoxin named caramboxin. If you have perfectly healthy kidneys, your body processes and filters this poison out before it can do damage. But here is the terrifying catch. Millions of adults have mild, completely undiagnosed kidney issues. If your kidneys are compromised even slightly, they cannot process the caramboxin. The neurotoxin travels straight to your brain, causing uncontrollable hiccups, violent vomiting, severe seizures, and in the worst cases, an irreversible coma. You are essentially betting your entire central nervous system on how well your renal function is holding up today. Fact 4. Cassia cinnamon. You probably sprinkle a generous spoonful of this spice on your morning oatmeal or coffee, believing it helps balance your blood sugar. Unfortunately, 90% of the cinnamon sold in supermarkets isn't the expensive, safe Ceylon variety. It is a much cheaper substitute called cassia cinnamon. Cassia is absolutely loaded with a chemical compound called coumarin. While a tiny sprinkle won't drop you, chronic, daily consumption of coumarin at the massive doses found in cassia is scientifically proven to be highly hepatotoxic. That means it directly and systematically damages your liver over time. You think you are doing a brilliant biohack for your overall health, but you are actually subjecting your liver to a daily dose of a known toxin. Fact 5. Brazil nuts. These massive, crunchy nuts are praised as the ultimate natural supplement for thyroid health, but they are actually one of the most dangerously concentrated food sources on the entire planet. The roots of the Brazil nut tree reach deep into the Amazonian soil, pulling up massive amounts of natural selenium and radioactive radium. While a tiny trace amount of selenium is essential for humans, eating just 3 to 5 of these nuts every single day will quickly push your body into a highly toxic overload. This brutal medical condition is called selenosis. Your nervous system starts misfiring, your breath smells permanently like foul garlic, your fingernails turn brittle and snap, and your hair literally starts falling out in clumps. Fact 6. St. John's wort. Walk into any American pharmacy and you will see shelves packed with this natural herbal supplement, aggressively marketed as a gentle, organic cure for mild depression. What the smiling label completely fails to mention is that this little yellow flower is a pharmaceutical wrecking ball. St. John's wort dramatically accelerates specific metabolic pathways in your liver. If you are taking life-saving prescription medications, like critical blood thinners such as warfarin or essential heart drugs, this herb makes your liver process and flush them out so fast that the drugs become utterly useless. You could suffer a massive, lethal blood clot or heart failure, all because you decided to treat a bad mood with an unregulated weed. Fact 7. Elderberries. When flu season hits, adults rush to buy every expensive elderberry syrup and gummy they can find, desperately hoping to boost their immune system. But if you decide to be a rugged homesteader and pick these dark berries fresh from the wild yourself, you are walking into a biochemical trap. The leaves, stems, and raw, unripe berries of the elder plant are absolutely packed with cyanogenic glycosides. When your digestive system breaks these down, they release pure, deadly cyanide gas directly into your stomach. Severe nausea, vomiting, and a frantic trip to the emergency room are essentially guaranteed. These berries are completely toxic unless they have been thoroughly boiled to neutralize the poison. Fact 8. Raw sprouts. Those crispy, fresh little alfalfa and soy sprouts make your expensive deli sandwich look incredibly healthy and organic. In reality, they are statistically the most dangerous bacteria-ridden item in the entire produce section. To grow these delicate sprouts, seeds must be incubated in a warm, highly humid environment. Unfortunately, this is the exact same perfect, cozy environment that Salmonella and E. coli need to rapidly multiply. The terrifying part is that the bacteria don't just sit on the outside of the sprout. They grow directly into the inner cellular tissue of the plant as it develops. That means no amount of aggressive washing or rinsing in your kitchen sink will ever make them safe. You are just happily eating a crunchy, organic petri dish. Fact 9. Raw oysters. Slurping down raw oysters on the half-shell at a fancy waterfront restaurant is seen as the ultimate sign of sophisticated, luxurious dining. But you are essentially playing biological roulette with warm ocean water. Oysters are filter feeders, meaning they constantly pump surrounding seawater through their bodies, capturing everything, including a horrifying marine bacterium called Vibrio vulnificus. If you are healthy, you might just get violently sick. But if you are over 45 and have any underlying liver disease or diabetes, this bacteria is an absolute death sentence. It quickly enters your bloodstream, triggering massive, overwhelming sepsis and flesh-eating tissue necrosis that can kill you within a mere 48 hours. Fact 10. Raw milk. There is a massive, trendy movement pushing unpasteurized raw milk as a magical, natural superfood that builds gut health. The FDA and the CDC strongly disagree, literally screaming at people to stop drinking it. Before modern pasteurization was invented, contaminated milk was one of the leading bacterial killers. Raw cow's milk is a perfect, nutrient-rich breeding ground for Listeria, Campylobacter, and E. coli. For adults over 45, especially those with naturally aging immune systems, the risk of suffering severe, life-threatening complications from these pathogens is scientifically proven to be a staggering 150 times higher than drinking the pasteurized version. You are just willfully inviting medieval digestive diseases into your modern refrigerator.
Put down that overpriced organic smoothie for a second. You people actually pay premium prices just to drink industrial bacteria and eat exotic seeds that magically turn into cyanide? I've seen outlaws drink muddy saloon water with better survival instincts. Keep listening. You're about to realize that boring tap water isn't so terrible after all.
Fact 11. Alfalfa salad toppings. We already touched on the biology of sprouts, But let's look at the cold, hard statistics the CDC desperately wants you to understand about your local salad bar. Alfalfa sprouts are specifically tracked by federal health agencies as one of the most consistent, notorious vehicles for massive national foodborne illness outbreaks in the United States. You pile them onto your turkey sandwich thinking they add a harmless, healthy crunch. But statistically, you are playing a terrible game of gastrointestinal bingo. The CDC has recorded dozens of multi-state outbreaks linked exclusively to these tiny green threads. They are so remarkably dangerous that leading food safety experts universally refuse to eat them. If the experts won't touch it, neither should you. Fact 12. Raw flour. Every time you bake cookies, the temptation to eat a giant spoonful of the raw dough is almost impossible to resist. While everyone worries about getting sick from the raw eggs, the actual hidden killer in that mixing bowl is the unassuming, powdery white flour. Flour is a completely raw, untreated agricultural product. It grows outdoors in massive, open fields where wild animals roam and tractors spray manure. If a bird drops a tiny biological gift containing E. coli onto the wheat before harvest, those lethal bacteria get ground directly into the flour you buy at the store. Unless that flour is baked in a hot oven, the bacteria remains completely active and ready to strike. One innocent bite of raw dough can result in a devastating intestinal infection. Fact 13. Home canned foods. The nostalgic appeal of preserving your own organic vegetables in cute glass mason jars is huge, but amateur canning is genuinely one of the most terrifying hobbies you can pick up. If you make even a slight mathematical mistake with your acid levels or fail to reach the exact required pressure, you create a flawless, oxygen-free sanctuary for Clostridium botulinum. This microscopic monster produces the botulinum toxin, officially recognized as one of the most incredibly lethal, paralyzing neurotoxins known to human science. It is completely odorless, entirely tasteless, and completely invisible. You could open a jar of your grandmother's famous green beans, take a single bite, and suffer full respiratory paralysis before the end of the day. Fact 14. Raw kidney beans. These bright red beans are a fantastic, cheap source of dietary fiber, but if you mishandle them, they become highly weaponized. Raw kidney beans contain an aggressively toxic protein called phytohemagglutinin. Eating just 5 or 6 raw or significantly undercooked beans will trigger violent, extreme gastrointestinal distress that perfectly mimics a brutal case of cholera. The biggest danger comes from modern home cooks using trendy slow cookers. Throwing dried kidney beans into a slow cooker is a recipe for disaster because the low, simmering heat is not nearly hot enough to destroy the toxin. In fact, low heat actually multiplies the toxicity of the beans, making them far deadlier than if you had eaten them completely raw. Fact 15. Brown rice. Every health guru on the internet will demand that you substitute your delicious white rice for the far healthier organic brown rice. However, that wholesome, unpolished brown outer layer acts exactly like a highly absorbent chemical sponge. As the rice grows in flooded agricultural paddies, the bran aggressively absorbs staggering amounts of naturally occurring and pesticide-derived inorganic arsenic from the groundwater. Because white rice is polished and completely stripped of this exact outer layer, it is vastly safer. Brown rice literally contains up to 80% more toxic arsenic than its much-hated white counterpart. Chronic exposure to arsenic through a daily brown rice diet slowly accumulates in your system, quietly elevating your risk for aggressive cancers. Fact 16. Green potatoes. We all have that forgotten bag of potatoes slowly sprouting in the dark corner of the pantry. When a potato starts turning green just beneath the skin, it isn't simply producing harmless chlorophyll, it is simultaneously generating a powerful nerve-paralyzing poison known as solanine. This is the potato's aggressive, natural chemical defense mechanism to stop hungry animals from eating it. Do not think you can simply cook the poison away. Solanine is incredibly heat-resistant. Frying, baking, or heavily boiling the potato will not destroy this neurotoxin. If you eat a heavily green potato, you will experience severe neurological headaches, burning throats, and dangerous cardiac dysrhythmia. If it looks green under the skin, throw it directly into the garbage. Fact 17. Bitter almonds. Almonds are the absolute gold standard of heart-healthy snacking, but there is a dark, highly lethal branch of the almond family tree. While regular sweet almonds are perfectly safe, raw bitter almonds are essentially tiny, crunchy capsules of pure poison. They are heavily loaded with a compound called amygdalin. The exact moment you chew them, they release lethal amounts of hydrogen cyanide gas directly into your body. This specific nut is so remarkably dangerous that the sale of raw bitter almonds is strictly, legally banned across the United States. Eating just 10 to 12 of these raw nuts contains enough fast-acting cyanide to cause total respiratory failure and rapidly kill a fully grown adult. Fact 18. Cassava root. Also known as yucca, this starchy tuber is a massive, trendy favorite in the modern gluten-free baking community. However, bringing raw cassava into your kitchen is like bringing a chemical weapon to a dinner party. The raw root heavily defends itself with cyanogenic glycosides. If you try to eat it raw, or if you fail to properly soak and vigorously boil it, the plant will unleash a massive dose of cyanide into your digestive tract. In regions relying heavily on improperly prepared cassava, chronic cyanide poisoning leads to a terrifying, irreversible neurological disorder called konzo. This brutal disease causes sudden, permanent paralysis of the legs. That trendy, healthy, gluten-free flour alternative demands absolute respect and meticulous preparation. Fact 19. Raw bamboo shoots. Bamboo shoots are a delicious, crunchy staple in hundreds of healthy Asian dishes, completely packed with beneficial fiber and essential vitamins. But pulling a fresh shoot out of the ground and taking a bite is an incredibly fast way to end up in the morgue. Raw bamboo shoots are absolutely loaded with a highly toxic substance known as taxiphyllin. Just like the compounds in cassava and almonds, taxiphyllin is a cyanogenic glycoside that immediately converts into deadly hydrogen cyanide gas the second it enters your highly acidic stomach. To make these shoots safe for human consumption, they must be boiled aggressively for a long period, completely uncovered, to allow the toxic cyanide gas to safely evaporate into the air. Fact 20. Fiddlehead ferns. These beautifully curled, vibrant green baby ferns are considered an absolute springtime delicacy among high-end chefs and organic foragers. They look like something out of a magical, healthy fairy tale. But beneath their cute, spiral exterior lies a highly aggressive, mysterious gastrointestinal toxin that medical science has yet to fully identify. What scientists do know is that if you eat them raw or lightly sauté them, they will unleash a brutal, unforgiving wave of severe food poisoning. You will experience agonizing stomach cramps, intense nausea, and explosive, bloody diarrhea. To disarm this mysterious chemical defense, you absolutely must boil fiddleheads vigorously for at least 15 solid minutes before eating them.
Are you furiously taking notes, or just actively throwing your entire pantry into the garbage? The amount of effort you modern humans put into legally poisoning yourselves is absolutely staggering. Keep your eyes on the screen. We're heading into seafood and kitchen mistakes next, and trust me, it's going to be a massacre.
Fact 21. Swordfish. Ordering a thick, grilled swordfish steak at an expensive seafood restaurant feels like a massive victory for your high-protein, heart-healthy diet. Unfortunately, swordfish sits proudly at the very top of the toxic ocean food chain. Because these massive predators live a very long time and eat thousands of smaller, contaminated fish, they accumulate astronomical, highly dangerous levels of methylmercury in their dense muscle tissue. Methylmercury is not something your body can easily flush out. It is a brutal neurotoxin that actively accumulates in your nervous system over several years. Regular consumption slowly erodes your cognitive function, causing severe memory loss, uncontrollable tremors, and a total loss of physical coordination. Fact 22. King mackerel. Mackerel is generally heavily advertised as a fantastic, affordable source of brain-boosting omega-3 fatty acids. But you must read the labels incredibly carefully, because there is a massive, deadly difference between the safe, smaller varieties and the massive king mackerel. This specific species is so dangerously overloaded with toxic methylmercury that the FDA and the EPA have placed it strictly on the official "Do Not Eat" list for any at-risk demographics. Just like the swordfish, this predator acts as a highly efficient oceanic vacuum cleaner, violently concentrating industrial mercury pollution directly into the meat you are about to pan-fry. If you are regularly eating king mackerel to improve your physical health, you are systematically achieving the exact opposite. Fact 23. Tilefish. This mildly flavored, highly popular white fish is often recommended to older adults as a soft, easily digestible, low-fat protein option for a healthy dinner. However, if that particular fish was caught in the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, it is an absolute biological hazard. Gulf tilefish holds the terrifying distinction of having some of the most extreme, uniquely high mercury concentrations ever recorded in commercial seafood. The mercury levels are so incredibly spiked that federal health experts boldly warn that eating it even occasionally is entirely unsafe. You are trading a few grams of healthy, lean protein for a massive, concentrated dose of a chemical that aggressively attacks your central nervous system. Fact 24. Escolar. When you order the incredibly expensive, highly luxurious super white tuna at your favorite upscale sushi restaurant, you are almost certainly being scammed, and the consequences are physically disgusting. Most restaurants quietly substitute real tuna with a much cheaper, deeply oily fish called escolar. Escolar tastes rich and buttery because its flesh is absolutely packed with highly complex wax esters. The horrific problem is that the human digestive system fundamentally lacks the specific enzymes required to break down this marine wax. Instead of digesting it, your body aggressively rejects it, resulting in a terrifying, deeply humiliating medical condition known as caryorrhea. This translates to sudden, explosive, uncontrollable, bright orange, oily diarrhea. Fact 25. Reheated rice. Meal prepping healthy rice for the entire week seems like the ultimate responsible, adult diet hack. But if you leave that freshly cooked rice sitting out on the kitchen counter to cool down to room temperature, you are actively cultivating a microscopic nightmare. Uncooked rice contains dormant spores of a highly aggressive bacteria called Bacillus cereus. Boiling the rice awakens these spores. As the rice sits warmly on your counter, the bacteria rapidly multiply and excrete incredibly powerful, heat-resistant toxins. Simply throwing that rice into the microwave for lunch the next day will absolutely not protect you. The microwave heat kills the bacteria, but it leaves the deadly, pre-formed toxins completely intact. Fact 26. Rhubarb leaves. Fresh, vibrant red rhubarb stalks are famously baked into delicious, tart, wholesome summertime pies. But if you decide to be overly resourceful and cook up the massive, leafy green tops to make a healthy side dish of greens, you are making a fatal botanical mistake. Rhubarb leaves contain astronomically high, highly concentrated levels of oxalic acid. While small amounts of this acid are harmless, the massive dosage found inside these specific leaves acts as a highly potent, fast-acting poison. It binds violently with the calcium in your blood, instantly forming thousands of microscopic, razor-sharp crystals that travel directly to your kidneys. This causes agonizing internal pain, severe respiratory distress, and rapid, catastrophic kidney failure. Fact 27. Nutmeg. This warm, festive spice is an absolute staple in healthy holiday baking and fancy organic coffee drinks. A tiny dusting is completely harmless and deliciously aromatic. However, inside the pantry of an overly generous cook, nutmeg transforms into a highly terrifying narcotic. Nutmeg contains an incredibly potent chemical compound known as myristicin. If you ingest just 1 or 2 full tablespoons of the raw powder, The myristicin acts on your central nervous system, triggering a deeply traumatic, highly toxic physiological response. Instead of a pleasant experience, you are guaranteed to suffer absolutely terrifying, dark hallucinations, uncontrollable nausea, extreme heart palpitations, and potentially life-threatening seizures. Fact 28. Raw cashews. When you proudly buy a premium, expensive bag of organically labeled raw cashews from your local health food store, you are actually being lied to for your own physical safety. Those nuts have already been heavily processed and treated with high-heat steam. Why? Because genuinely, completely raw cashews picked straight off the tree are heavily coated in a caustic, oily chemical called urushiol. If that name sounds familiar, it is because it is the exact same highly aggressive toxin that makes poison ivy so notoriously miserable. If you were to crack open a truly raw cashew shell and pop the nut into your mouth, the urushiol would instantly cause brutal, blistering, agonizing chemical burns all the way down your throat and esophagus. Fact 29. Mango skin. Mangoes are a universally beloved, incredibly healthy tropical superfood, practically bursting with vitamins and antioxidants. But some overly enthusiastic health fanatics try to eat the fruit completely unpeeled, believing the skin holds extra magical nutrients. This is a remarkably painful mistake. Just like raw cashews, the skin and the sap of a fresh mango contain trace amounts of that same miserable, blister-inducing toxin, urushiol. If you are even slightly sensitive to poison ivy, aggressively biting into an unpeeled mango will trigger a horrible, localized allergic reaction called mango mouth. Your lips, mouth, and entire throat will quickly swell up, turning bright red, burning fiercely, and bursting into painful, weeping blisters. Fact 30. Wild mushrooms. The romantic hobby of foraging for your own organic, wild mushrooms is a game of absolute, fatal Russian roulette. Even highly experienced foragers frequently make tiny visual mistakes that cost them their lives. The infamous death cap mushroom looks incredibly similar to several safe, delicious varieties. But the death cap is completely loaded with amatoxins. These toxins are entirely immune to any cooking method. Boiling or frying them does absolutely nothing to save you. If you eat just half of a single cap, the poison violently attacks your liver, completely destroying the vital organ within a mere 24 hours. Your wholesome weekend foraging trip in the quiet woods will swiftly end in a frantic, hopeless wait for a miraculous emergency organ transplant. Well, there you have it. You survived decades without seatbelts and helmets, only to realize your own kitchen is an active biochemical warfare zone. Next time you feel guilty about craving a greasy burger instead of a raw super salad, just remember, the burger isn't secretly plotting to shut down your nervous system. Stay paranoid, my friends. And that is the brutal truth about your healthy grocery list. The world of organic eating is filled with potent, natural toxins and bacterial threats hiding behind clever marketing. You don't have to abandon your diet, but you absolutely must respect the chemistry on your plate. Cook your food, wash your produce, and never assume that just because something is natural, it wants to be your friend. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below letting us know which healthy food just shattered your trust. Stay safe, stay educated, and we will see you next time.